I already filmed this entire thing once and I filmed it in slow motion on accident. So, second time's the charm. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Caitlin. I'm a mom to 5 and today I want to share my birth story of my youngest baby as well as my testimony from God. A little backstory, I have 4 kids with my ex-husband, and shortly after I met my boyfriend, we became pregnant with our baby. I'm going to share a little bit about my pregnancy as it does play a part in my birth story as well, and all of it together is the testimony that I want to share with you today. I want to start off by saying that I do want to put a small trigger warning that if pregnancy and birth complications bother you, you probably should not watch this video. Otherwise, let's get into the story. I started my pregnancy in California. We now live in Nebraska. That's going to be a big part of this story as well. But I started my pregnancy in California and did not have the best health care. They did not monitor me very well. I usually have high-risk pregnancies, so that was very important. They dropped the ball on that and did not do that. This was also going to be my 4th C-section, and I got pregnant only about 14 months postpartum, which is not the best idea to be doing. It was not planned, but here we are. At 26 weeks pregnant, I ended up getting very sick to the point that I needed help even caring for my 4 other kids. I could not leave the bathroom. It was so bad. I was calling my doctor who was out of office. How convenient. And in California, the practice I went to did not allow you to see other doctors. So I was kind of just on my own going back and forth with the advice nurse about what to do. She ended up putting me on Zofran. I was taking Imodium. Neither of them were really helping. I was trying to push through it to be there for my son for baseball, and my twins were having their 4th birthday party coming up. So I was trying to get through this because I thought that I just had a stomach bug. My twins had their birthday party on a Saturday, and the night before that, I was in the bathroom the entire night, doubled over in pain. I was having contractions. It was so bad, but to me, with the previous experience having children, I didn't feel like it was the type of pain to go to labor and delivery. I thought that it was going to pass. I was writing it off. There was someone outside my window. I was writing it off as pain from, I don't even know what. I honestly thought I just had a stomach bug, and I thought that that was my problem. I thought that's why I was having the contractions and in pain. However, at my twins' birthday party, I still was not functioning very well, and I told my boyfriend, we need to go to labor and delivery and get checked out because something is not right. Like, I cannot keep doing this. They need to do something for me. They need to help me. We go to labor and delivery, and by this point, I was no longer having contractions and I was no longer in pain. I was still just dealing with going to the bathroom every like 30 minutes, which was insane. So we're in labor and delivery. They have me hooked up to the monitors, and I was actually contracting at that point. And I did miss a dose of my blood pressure medication the night before because I was obviously preoccupied with everything else going on. And so they said, well, this medication also suppresses preterm labor, contractions, etc. So because you missed a dose, that's probably why it kicked your body into contracting. At that point, it kind of made sense to me. Looking back now, I should have known that that was kind of a BS type of answer. They did not do any sort of imaging. So we did no ultrasound. We did no checks for anything. We did nothing. They just put me on the monitor, gave me some water, and basically said, take your med in a few hours tonight when you're supposed to, and they sent me on my way. I never ended up having issues again. It kind of stopped after that. So I was like, wow, it must have been the accidental missed medication and a stomach bug, which is what we thought it was this entire time. At this point, we were 27 weeks along, and I've had babies at 28 weeks before, so I was really nervous that I was going to have a NICU baby again because we were 2 weeks away from moving to Nebraska. For me personally, I was like, oh, this is the answer I wanted. Like, this was the answer I expected, or was hoping for, I guess is a better way to put it. So we went home, we continued getting ready to move, and then we made the move. We made this move with my 4 kids, my boyfriend, my dog, and me. And so I drove my car with my kids in it We met their dad halfway through the trip so that they could go to his house for the summer, and then we continued on to Nebraska. Once we got to Nebraska, I did not have health insurance, so it took me about 2 weeks, I think, to get health insurance set up here and get into the doctor to be seen. Once we got here and established with care, they were a lot more involved than the doctors in California had been. So they started me on NSTs and BPPs, I think at 34 weeks. It was just a lot more involved than I had gotten in California, which was great. So I went in for an appointment at 36 weeks, and my blood pressure was really high, even with me being on the medication. And so it was advised that I go to the nearest hospital that had a NICU to be triaged and checked. So we did that. I spoke to the doctor at that hospital. She got my blood pressure down. She felt safe to send me home, but said that baby needed to come at 37 weeks regardless of anything else. So we scheduled a C-section with this doctor at 37 weeks because they were also concerned, based off of my BPPs, that my uterus or my placenta had grown into my uterus. That is what they thought had happened. That is what they thought they saw on ultrasounds. It's not something we were talked to about in California, so this was new to us. And they really didn't tell me much about it, I think to not scare me. So I really didn't understand the severity of what they thought was going on. So when we go in for the C-section, again, this was my 4th C-section. I'm used to it at this point. And they had 3 different people from anesthesia in the room. They had so many doctors and nurses. They had a team there to help give a blood transfusion where they would use my blood and send it through a machine to clean it and then put it back in my body, because they thought that I was going to lose so much blood from the C-section that they were concerned that they wouldn't have enough to give me back. They were also concerned that they were going to have to put me completely under because they thought that I was going to hemorrhage and bleed out from my placenta being grown into my uterus. There was also the potential for them having to completely remove everything and give me a full hysterectomy, which did not happen, by the way, but that was a concern of theirs. When they opened me up and got in there, they realized that none of that was what was going on and that my uterus had actually ruptured, and the only thing holding the baby in was my scar tissue from my previous C-sections. Basically, the scar tissue was in the middle and her bag was bulging out either side of the scar tissue. And that is where I'm sharing this as a testimony, because there is no explanation. I have talked to so many doctors about this, and there is no explanation that they can give me for how that happened and how it happened for so long. Because after speaking to multiple doctors, we have come to the conclusion that the issue I was having at 27 weeks, where I was in such agony, that is the only time I was ever in pain during this pregnancy, and they have come to the conclusion that it ruptured at 27 weeks. So for 10 weeks, I was walking around as a ticking time bomb and did not know it. We moved across the country like that, which looking back now was extremely dangerous, but no one had any idea that it had even happened. And the doctors in California obviously did not do their jobs to make sure that nothing was wrong inside. A uterus rupture is very dangerous for mom and baby. It can be deadly for both. And so the fact that I walked around like that for 10 weeks with nothing bad happening to either of us, to me is truly an act of God, because no doctor can explain how that happened and stayed that way for that long. We are now 5 weeks postpartum, and both of us are happy, healthy, fine. I had a few minor complications from my surgery, but it had nothing to do with the rupture. The way that they closed me up a little tighter than I have been in past C-sections, but after talking to some friends who also had C-sections, this happened to them too. So it should go away by 8 weeks postpartum, which I'm really looking forward to, because the pain is unreal. But everyone is happy, healthy. Our baby is perfect. We are getting used to being a family of 7 now, which is insane to say. And let me know in the comments if you or someone you know had something like this happened to them as well during pregnancy or birth, or just maybe in life in general, I'm truly interested to read your comments, and I would love if you would post them down below so that I can read them. And yeah, we'll catch you in the next video. I'm excited to make more of these long form sit down YouTube videos. I have a lot I want to say and a lot to talk about, so look forward to the next one.